What's up guys, welcome to the YouTube channel. If it's your first time here, my name is Edward Lee. I'm a filmmaker and photographer, and in this video, I want to share with you guys these new kind of creative lens filters that PolarPro just released. Now these lens filters go alongside their Ultra Lightweight Mattebox, which is the Basecamp. I actually did a whole video on this last year, so if you want to check it out, I'll link it down below. But this video is specifically kind of covering those new lens filters they just released, kind of an updated version of their Basecamp Mattebox. So let's not waste any more time and get right into it. Now the first creative filter is the Bluemorphic. Now this glass piece goes in front of your lens and it kind of allows you to see these blue streaks or light flares across your frame. Now typically you see these light flares and streaks when you're using anamorphic cinema lenses, but the reason why a lot of people don't use anamorphic cinema lenses is because they're very expensive. You'll commonly see them, in films or, in high-end production. So being able to use this filter to kind of accomplish something similar with more, consumer-friendly cameras is kind of a big plus, especially if that's the look that you're going for. So of course, if you have specific lights in your frame or you have hard light sources coming in, definitely using this kind of filter will exaggerate that light flare and it can make it look a little bit more cinematic or creative, but definitely it's not something you want to overdo. Another cool thing about the Bluemorphic as well is that it can be rotated within the matte box. So if you're not looking for perfectly horizontal streaks, you can actually rotate the glass element to kind of get angled or vertical blue light streaks, which is kind of cool, especially if you're trying to go for that stylized, super creative abstract look. And PolarPro also makes a gold morphic filter, which of course, instead of blue streaks, you'll see, I'm assuming, yellow or goldish flares. Now the next creative filter is going to be the VNDs or variable neutral density filters that also have mist built into the glass element. Over the last few years, a very popular filter has been coming up a lot more, at least I feel like it has in the filmmaking community or content creation community, and that is the Tiffen Pro Mist filter. I use it all the time in my videos, and I'm using one right now. Now, what a Pro Mist filter does, it essentially kind of gives softer highlights and also gives a little bit more of a bloom when there's light sources like behind me, like this lamp. Basically, if I don't use a Pro Mist filter, this is what it looks like. As you guys can see, the image got a lot more sharp, a lot more digital, and the light behind me is not kind of blooming. Now, if I put the Pro Mist filter back on, you'll see that it's subtle. This is a quarter Pro Mist filter, and it definitely has a difference on the lights. Now, essentially what PolarPro has done is created a variable neutral density or a VND filter that also has mist in it, or kind of like this pro mist feel. And so that's a really cool feature, especially if you're shooting in daylight and you need to use an ND filter, but you also want that, pro mist look and feel as well, kind of stacked 2-in-1. Personally, I feel like I'm going to be using this filter a ton just because I feel like I use ND filters or VNDs all the time, and also the Tiffen Pro Mist filter. And what's great about having it 2-in-1, because typically when you're using it on a regular camera lens, you're threading on the filter. When you stack too many filters on each other, you start to get some vignetting in your frame if you don't zoom in all the way, if you're shooting all the way wide. But overall, it's just a much more seamless process when it's 2-in-1. Now, what if you don't want the ND or the neutral density portion of it and you just want mist? Pretty sure PolarPro has also rolled out just the mist portion. So if you're not looking to always have kind of the mist aspect in your footage and you just want the ND, you can definitely have just the ND standalone and then the mist with a clear without ND on it by itself as well. So that is an option if you don't want to always have them 2-in-1. And PolarPro has also released 2 separate strengths for the mist kind of diffusion. So the first one is just regular mist, the second one is mist heavy. Obviously, it's kind of like similar to Pro Mist filters. You have like a quarter, an eighth, and so it's like the strength of how much diffusion you want in your frame. So if you don't want too heavy or you need more, they have different options for that. Now, the third creative lens filter that goes with the PolarPro Mattebox is the graduated ND filter. Now, this filter basically allows you to control how much light is in parts of your frame. And so the top portion of the glass element is kind of like an ND filter, and it kind of gradually goes down to no ND filter. Now, when would you want to use a filter like this? Well, when you're shooting outside or sometimes even inside and you're dealing with two separate exposure or like an unevenly lit scene, that's when you want to use a filter like this, because you'll be able to compensate for one portion of the frame and then also have it be evenly lit when people see your footage. So typically when you're filming like skylines or landscapes and the sky or background is super blown out, but what's on the below or like the foreground is kind of darker, basically what you can do is expose for the foreground or what's in front of you, and then put the graduated ND filter to also expose for the sky or whatever is blown out in your frame. This will allow you to get a really evenly lit scene, even though to the eye it's very uneven in terms of the exposure level. Personally, I don't think I'll be using this filter a ton, but I can see it coming in handy, especially if I want to expose for both a subject and also get the sky or kind of the background kind of evenly lit as well. Now, another new update to the Basecamp is now the ability to add more filters on top of each other using the third stage adapter. Now, this adapter they just rolled out, it goes on to their existing matte box that they initially released. So if you already own their matte box, you can get the third stage adapter, or if you're getting the whole new kit now, you can actually get the third stage adapter. But what it does is it allows you to add another glass element in front of the existing one. So this basically means you can stack a bunch of lens filters on top of each other. So you can get really creative with the combinations of lens filters. So you could do like Bluemorphic, VND, ND, Mist, Mist Heavy, whatever. There's so many combinations, but now you can get really creative and dial in the exact filter needs for your specific set or for your actual shoot. Now, if you're still watching this video up until this point, you might be still interested in figuring out whether or not you need a matte box or whether or not these filters are for you. Why would you want a matte box, and who is a matte box for? Well, personally, I feel like this kit, the PolarPro kind of Basecamp Ultra Lightweight Mattebox, in my opinion, it's for people who want that rapid changing lens filter system. So if you're not really, interested in, changing and swapping a bunch of lens filters on set, if that's time consuming for you, or if you find yourself stacking lens filters all the time, it might be a good time to invest into a matte box such as the Basecamp. Also, matte boxes like this are going to be great for people who really need that flexibility when it comes to stacking specific lens filters. So if you're used to stacking, ND filters with Pro Mist, or you wish you could have done that more with some of the filters that don't have the threads on it. If you're really interested in trying to stack more glass elements in front of your lens, a matte box can be really, really helpful. And of course, the matte box allows you to kind of control to a certain degree how much light is coming into the frame, especially if you have like really bright sun flares coming in. You can flag it off with kind of the flag that comes with the matte box. And last but not least, I feel like it needs to be said, but the matte box definitely makes your rig look cooler and more professional. I know it kind of sounds ridiculous, but for real, like I've been to shoots with the matte box on, and clients, especially if they're not in the filmmaking space or they don't have too much experience, when the rig is bigger, it makes it look like you know what you're doing more. I don't know why, it makes you look more professional. And if that's definitely a selling point for you, having a matte box, even like this PolarPro Basecamp, definitely will kind of give you those cool points if you're trying to have a really good looking rig. But with that being said, even though it makes your rig look a little bit bigger, the matte box itself is actually really lightweight and it's not heavy at all. It doesn't feel front heavy when you're using it, especially if you have a really good even rig with weight distribution on the backside with like a battery or a cage or a handle. And so I have no complaints with how heavy the actual matte box is. So hopefully you found this video helpful if you're in the market for a matte box, more specifically the PolarPro Basecamp with their new updates on it. I personally really love PolarPro as a brand. They're not paying me to say this, but their packaging is top notch. Their products are really built high quality, and I've used their products not just with the Basecamp, but in a lot of different parts of my creative process, and they've been really awesome. So I would highly recommend their products. I'll link it down below where you can find this matte box with the creative lens filters. And if you have any questions, make sure you drop them down below. I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. And make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I feel like there's a lot of new faces here over the last couple month or two, and I'm not exactly sure what the direction of this channel is, but you can expect to see a lot of things on the creative front, filmmaking, maybe some productivity, and some spaces on how to, you know, dial in your environment, things of that nature. But I'm not 100% sure where the channel is going or where it's headed. I'm learning just like you guys, so make sure to subscribe though. I would love to have you guys follow me on this journey. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.